Excellent. Hello, everybody. This is Josh with some critical thinking, and I just finished watching the movie Disclosure Day. Wow, what a very powerful movie, and thanks to my friends for treating me to go see it. I have been around the internet since there was dial up and baud modems, all kinds of sounds. Uh, Hours and hours and hours. I remember one time, 8 hours just to download an image. My first time ever seeing a UFO craft was on a bulletin board system where I downloaded an image, I saw it, and the next day it disappeared. It was quite a memorable experience. I remember showing it to my dad, and years later, it was always something that intrigued me. I continued to follow researchers and information down their rabbit hole without bias. And it's been truly a pleasure to be able to see that movies like this came out, although I wouldn't say it's all true, but there was a lot of partial truths in this movie. If you're watching this now and you haven't seen the movie yet, I'm going to share some spoilers, but not too much. But I'm going to also give you some information that you can go further down the rabbit hole. So stay tuned, listen close, and get your notepad if you're really interested, because I'm going to tell you some stuff that I think you need to know. The movie Disclosure Day, I would call it a soft release. It contains lots of partial truths. Some of those are things like remote influencing, which is something that's possible, and I've seen done myself by Farsight, Farsight Project remote viewers. Now, that's a topic that sometimes gets shadow banned, so I'm hoping that it's not in this particular case, and you're able to see this video and share it if you find it interesting. There's two there's two main characters, I would say, in this movie, a man and a woman, and they had an experience with a being not of Earth. They are going, and it kind of shows, this movie shows a variety of perspectives on the topic of disclosure, right? From the people that want to keep it secret and the religious, I would say one particular religion, their viewpoint on it from another number of stances, and then the people that want to come out with it. And they also show a number of different things. They use plot devices like some physical objects, right? There's an alien artifact or an off-world artifact that it allows certain things to happen. One of them was teleportation. Another one was being able to remotely, I guess, project oneself into someone else's mind and then influence that person. And then there's also that same tool is also used to disappear people from view. Now, they also show at one point the EBEs, the extra that was the when there was a disclosure, and there's been a number of ones. The US military just recently came out with a whole new set of stuff that you can see, and there's a bunch of documents, there's videos, and there's images. This is most other countries on the planet have already disclosed their stuff, and some countries are much more open about this particular subject, that it's not hidden. Like, everybody knows about it. It's not a big thing. But the US has been holding on to this stuff for a long time, and I think there's a reason behind that. Recently, David Grush was somebody that was running illegally running an unacknowledged special access program that didn't exist and had its own sources of funding and stuff like that. And that was There's a number of those that are existing that are operating illegally. Now, this movie kind of alludes to those kinds of programs. They're known as USAPs or SAPs, and some of these things happen in. It's like these people. It's compartmentalized. So if you don't understand, or if you're not in a military family, you don't understand compartmentalization. I completely agree. I completely empathize with you. So let me try to break down compartmentalization in a way that makes sense. You've got some people that know parts of it, but they don't know the whole picture. In a way that I can kind of explain this to you. So say you're at a company and there's the controller, or people that do accounts payable, accounts receivable. Depending on your position, you might know of those people that they exist, but you might not know exactly what they do or what they're dealing with. And there's certain streams of information that are going to have you just don't have. Now, USAPs can operate the same type of way. And that they might even be so far as that they've got to get their own type of funding. They're off the reserve. Like if they get found out, there's plausible deniability. That just we have nothing to do with that. And the in the movie, there was it looks like there was a program like that, but they were also connected to high up military. And there are certain people that know about it, certain people that don't. They also alluded in the movie that the president doesn't know everything. And that kind of makes sense to me from a humanity survival standpoint, in that you're not going to give your most classified um, long-term planning and defense to somebody who's a temporary employee. They're going to have a certain amount of authority and power, but they're going to be gone in every so many years, and that creates an operational risk if that person knows too much, that they could be compromised. But the problem I think that we also have is that there are people that are compromised in a number of different ways. And one of them was kind of alluded to in this movie, and I don't know if they realize that or not. But it when there are beings out there that are highly telepathic, and that telepathy gives them a capability to do things, like project themselves as something other than what they are, or make it so that they're not even seen at all. Maybe they're standing right in front of you, or they're walking down the street, and they have a high power, short radius influence capability, and they're able to make it so that nobody even recognizes them or sees them as something totally different than what they actually are. And they also would have the capability to read your mind. Now, the imagine this. I'm going to ask you to kind of step out of what you're used to here. Imagine that you're raised on a planet where it's not taboo to have, say, telekinesis, the ability to move things with your mind, or the ability to be telepathic, where you can actively speak to someone else uh, just by thinking of them or thinking messages to them, and then they receive it. Now, if you're out there and you've ever had that happen in a small way with somebody you know, maybe a relative, somebody you're close to, then let me know in the comments, because I know I certainly have before. The other thing is that that can also be used to influence you. So someone, and they did show that in this movie, that people are influenced. Maybe they see their grandmother, or maybe they see their father, or their um, their long lost loved one will be all of a sudden in front of them and speaking to them. And that can also be used against you as well. That is what people think might be a benign or a loving or an amazing thing. Well, what if the being that is doing that, it's using that as deception, right? The same way maybe you'd have what's a good metaphor here? The big fish in the sea that's got the little dangler. right? It looks like something, and the things that it preys upon are, wow, look at that. That's so amazing. I'm going to go and I'm going to interact with it. And doing so is what lands you in the trap. The but some of the other things that I really loved about this movie was, well, the acting was fantastic, the camera, the lighting. I really liked it. It was paced very well, and it was kind of like a chase 'em type of movie. But but at the end, they also showed that there was an element of compassion. I was very concerned going into this movie that there was going to be a fear angle behind it, and there was from a certain component within it that wanted to keep the data secret, as we have now. But thankfully, we've got meetings on Capitol Hill, and data is coming out. I would say from the data that I have from behind from my own personal research, the EBEs, the small guys, the small little grays, looked like the images that I've seen. The interview that I've seen with one that was confirmed by another remote viewer, a separate team, uh, it that's what it looked like. But there was some movie plot stuff. So the speaking in math code that's interpreted, that's not something that I've ever come across. I'm not aware of that. From the knowledge that I have, and if you're curious about this knowledge, a lot of it is either from remote viewers, like the Farsight Institute, and their various projects that you can see on their website. They're awesome. Farsight Prime, but and this is a thing you could do yourself. But there's also an amazing book by Matilda O'Donnell, McDonnell. It's called "Interview with an Alien," and it's from a being that was captured in the Roswell crash, and this being had I don't know, what would you call it, an upgraded an upgraded suit, so it survived the crash. Of course, it's not the only one. There's been lots, and there's various government organizations that shoot these things down, and there's crash retrieval teams, and all of that stuff has come out now. The But the movie showed the compassion to have behind these beings that are captured, right? If if the vast majority of people on this planet don't realize that they exist, they have no rights. They can be shot down, they can be interrogated, they can be tortured, they can be dissected with willful abandon. And if I know anything about humans, is that we are very territorial as a race, and you just look at the news, right? That's a demonstration right there on how we are territorial. But having a compassionate angle and having rights for anything that is crashed, I think, is the next logical step, right? Why are we just shooting things down? Why do we not? And if we have the technology to do so, then what? Like, and there is people that say that we do. uh, We need to have that. How do we know that we're not going to reach a point of which there's a line in the sand that we cross, and these beings decide that, hey, one of our royals or one of our very important people was coming to your planet to go check it out. It's a beautiful blue ball out there in the Milky Way, and you aggressive surface monkeys decided to shoot it down and capture our important person or important being, and tortured it and dissected it. And we're not happy with that, and we've got a whole planet over there that's traveling around because we can do, we've got amazing technology, and we can spit out ships like Frito Lays, and they're perfect, and you can't do anything with them, and they can be here in the blink of an eye and wipe your whole planet out of existence. Um, Maybe for an intergalactic highway, like in that one movie that is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's so funny, but anyway, It was an excellent movie. It's got a lot of partial truths, but there's, I think, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, there's so much more. And the two places that I would definitely recommend is the book. Interview with an Alien, and the definitely check out the new government website in the states for all of their disclosed documents and videos. But also, if you're curious about getting to know about some of the stuff that you've always wondered about, check out Farsight Prime. And I've subscribed to them on and off. Sometimes I let them come out with a bunch of data, and then I'll resubscribe and binge watch. Let's talk about some of the before I let you go, let me talk about some of the other stuff. There was I would say that disclosure's already happened, right? They've had big disclosure conversations, especially in the States. And like I was saying, most government around the world have come out with their stuff. But uh, the real question, excuse me, the real question here is what how does everything change in terms of the reality of immortality? Oh, wait. If you think about that for a second, it takes a while to get your mind around because we have all been led to believe that we have a short amount of time, that we have a finite existence here within this corporeal being, this meat suit that we've been given. Some would say that this is the seventh uh, version of the meat suits here, and there are updates that there are certain points that are reached and everything is kind of wiped out, and then we kind of start again. But when you start thinking about immortality, the next question, when I spent a lot of time pondering this, is what do you do with the beings that never die if you don't like them? If you're a government that has invented everything it thinks it needs to invent, or doesn't value culture, doesn't value music, doesn't value scientists anymore, doesn't need them, doesn't like free thinkers or people that ask the wrong questions. Or let's say it's a government where you use taxation for control and someone doesn't pay their taxes, but you can't kill them because they come back. What if the reality is not the suit that you're wearing on the outside, but the being having the experience within? And when you start thinking about those kinds of things, that maybe the external can be changed just like you would change your shirt. To get around the dogma of the difference of other things, to think that alien is somehow scary or wrong, and to start looking at beings of any sort by their actions. What are their actions? Are they benevolent? Are their actions, would you say they're good or bad? Um, the because if you're a government that wants to get rid of an immortal being, and this data comes across in the alien interview, so I'm giving you a little bit of a catch up here. Well, maybe you have to find a planet with a soul recycler system that you can put things in containers, immortal things in containers where they forget they're immortal. There's a whole system designed around them forgetting that they're immortal. You're going to put certain people in charge that get extra perks. Once in a while, you can have a visitor. There's a visitor that might come around once in a while. Well, let's just look at like a maximum security prison. We have prisons on Earth. They're all over the planet too. And to think that Earth is the only planet with a soul recycler system is ludicrous. It'd be like saying that on planet Earth there's only one jail. And that's simply not the case. There's jails all over Earth. And if you're if you have someone that wants to go visit a jail, and they can, and we know that there's people that do, there's even ministers that go and visit churches. Well, what would somebody look like that came and visited here? Maybe they don't look like us, but maybe they could look like us if they wanted to. What would those types of people say to us? Maybe they might say, hey, you're not alone. You're not your body. The temple's inside you. You don't need a building. You're immortal. You always have been. You always will. Well, when you start looking at some of the beings that maybe have come here to try to speak to the populace, how do they get treated? Well, I think that that is by design. It's by design in the programming of the place that we're in. And to get as much understanding as possible, I think that you can filter things through a couple different ways. One of them would be fear. Fear isolates, fear controls. So, is the direction creating less of something? Does it create more control? Or is it through love? Is the actions through love? Are they opening? Are they enlightening? Do they is there room for compassion? Is compassion being demonstrated? And I firmly believe that one more person that I need to mention is Dr. Stephen Greer. Dr. Stephen Greer has done an amazing job trying to come out with the information. Some people would say that he's compromised. I don't think so. He's had a lot of people around him disappear. In that he had his whole team kind of killed, but he's come out with a number of movies about disclosure. There's witnesses that have come out and talked about technology, 0 point energy, and there's craft. There's ones that we create. There's ones that are not ours. And the question is are we going to see actions in our lifetime that create more freedom? Not more security, more freedom, more compassion and love. I hope so. But time will tell. Anyway, hope you got something out of this subject. Leave it in the notes below if you found this interesting. I can talk about a lot of this stuff, give you more sources. And have a fantastic day. If you haven't seen that movie yet, go check it out. But just know that it's not all true. But I would say that from my experience, the tall grays looked like tall grays, and the short ones looked like the short ones. I'm not entirely sure if the disclosure stuff that you see in there that is supposedly videos or events is real or fictitious. I haven't got data either way for that yet. But yeah, have a fantastic night. Take care. Josh out.